Bumpers for your iPhone, Tesla saves a life, and a look at the other side of the South by Southwest scandal. Tech News Tonight is next.
This is Twit.
This is Tech News Tonight, episode 457 for Friday, October 30th, 2015. This episode is brought to you by Braintree. Looking to set up payments for your business? Braintree gives your app or website a payment solution that accepts just about every payment method with one simple integration. Plus, Braintree will give you the first $50,000 in transactions fee-free. To learn more, visit BraintreePayments.com/TechNight. Welcome. I am Megan Morrone. It is almost Halloween. Let's get to the tech news. Here's a follow-up to the story we reported yesterday about how Google plans to fold the Chrome OS into Android. Mark Bergen over at Recode says that Google is working with partners to build PCs running Android. And in the future, the company will leave it up to the PC makers to decide whether new machines run Android or Chrome. And as we said yesterday, this idea isn't a new one. Even as far back as 2009, Sergey Brin had been suggesting that the two OSs become one. The Android OS for laptops will reportedly be available in 2017. The iPad Pro will go on sale November 11th, according to 9to5Mac's reliable sources. Mark Gurman says the 12.9-inch tablet will be offered online and in stores on November 11th, along with the $100 Apple Pencil and the $170 Smart Keyboard. The iPad Pro will start at $799 for the 32-gigabyte model with Wi-Fi. The highest-end version will be $179. That has 128 gigabytes, and it has Wi-Fi and cellular capabilities. And in other Apple news, Forbes spotted a recent patent by the iPhone maker that allows for retractable bumpers that trigger if you drop your phone. The patent, called Active Screen Protection for Electronic Device, was filed by a mechanical engineer at Apple. When a sensor detects a drop event, the screen protectors move from the retracted to the extended position to absorb the shock and prevent the screen from hitting the surface. And coming up, we will talk to Omar Gallaga from the Austin American-Statesman about what journalists are getting wrong about the latest GamerGate scandal. But first, this episode is brought to you by Braintree, code for easy mobile payments. Maybe you're working on the next Uber, the next Airbnb, or maybe the next GitHub. Why not use the same simple payment solution that helped them become what they are today? Braintree makes mobile payments so fast, easy, and seamless, it's almost like magic. Add it to your app with just a few lines of code, and you're instantly ready to accept Apple Pay, Android Pay, PayPal, Venmo, credit cards, even Bitcoin. And if some other way to pay comes along, and it probably will, Braintree will support that too. Braintree's fast payouts and continuous support means you'll always be ready, whether you're earning your first dollar or your billionth. See fewer abandoned carts and more sales with Braintree's best-in-class mobile checkout experience. Braintree gives you a full-stack payment solution, support for all payment types, single integration across all platforms with superior fraud protection, customer service, and fast payouts. Check it out for yourself. Visit BraintreePayments.com/TechNight. Yesterday, I talked to Georgia Dow about GamerGate and the psychology of online hate. Thanks to everyone who responded on Twitter with appreciation and constructive criticism. Some of you suggested that I interview someone on the other side of the argument for balance. I traded emails with Perry Jones. He's from the Open Gaming Society. He feels that the Save Point panel, that was the opposing panel, is being misrepresented. Here to continue this discussion is Omar Gallaga from the Austin American-Statesman. Omar covers technology and culture in Austin and has been following this story closely from both sides of the argument. Welcome, Omar.
Hi, thanks for having me.
So many journalists have gotten key facts in this story wrong. Why don't you start by telling us what happened this week?
Well, on Monday, South by Southwest Interactive, which happens in March next year, canceled two panels that were on the schedule. One of them included some people who are kind of on the pro-GamerGate side, and the other panel was related to online harassment. Both these panels were canceled on Monday due to what the festival called threats of on-site violence. After that, the festival kind of faced a firestorm of criticism for basically kowtowing to harassment in canceling these panels. On Tuesday, the festival seemed to acknowledge that they had made a mistake and kind of said, stay tuned. And today, on Friday, they announced that they are going to be doing a full-day online harassment summit and bringing back those panels. Now, the question is, are all of those participants going to come back? At least one of those panels, the one on online harassment, it seems they were not contacted about a lot of this information and are considering pulling out, which could kind of collapse the whole affair. So that is kind of where we are right now.
So I spent a lot of time just thinking about this, kind of going through Twitter, looking at all the posts by the different sides and talking to people. And let's talk about how South by Southwest handled this, because a lot of people have criticized them, saying they're tone deaf. They just really, screwed this up. They weren't paying attention to harassment. But it's a very confusing situation, and there's a lot of noise about it, and it's really hard to say. I mean, do you think that South by Southwest messed up, or could any organization have made the same mistake?
I think there were definitely mistakes along the way in the panel picker process, which is how they select a lot of their programming, and which goes to a public vote and has a committee. But what I was surprised by, and I mentioned this in one of my posts, is that a year ago I looked at the first set of panels that were out for 2015, and I said, how come there's nothing about GamerGate? That seems to be what everybody's talking about. That seems to be the big controversy in tech right now. There's no programming that even mentions that. What happened? And now this year they did try to do that, and it kind of blew up in their face. So this is a discussion that even a year ago I was thinking, why isn't the festival kind of addressing this huge kind of elephant in the room? And now that they have, and kind of done it in the wrong way, they've faced this probably the biggest crisis in 22 years of the festival.
Well, I mean, it's understandable. Like when I started thinking and trying to write about this and find people to interview, I was, it gets so confusing, and the temptation is just like, I'm afraid I'm going to say something that's going to, inspire hate from one side or the other. There is that temptation to just give up, but it's really good that we continue to talk about it. I think so. Now, talking about the panels, is it true that that you vote for the panel? So there was the anti-harassment panel that was voted, but is it true that the pro-GamerGate, that some people are calling pro-GamerGate, the other side was just not voted? It was just something that they wanted to find the other side of the argument, and so they just found these people?
That's what appears to have happened. There was no public vote on that on the Safe Point panel, which is what the GamerGate one was called, and nobody that I spoke to on what they call the programming committee saw it either. And that usually those panels are split up into all the members of what used to be called the advisory board. And none of the people I talked to that are on it saw it, and they don't see each other's panels, so there might have slipped through, but definitely was not put to a public vote. So there's kind of the idea that South by Southwest put that in there, or allowed it to come in late in order to balance the two sides. Where if you talk to people on on the other panel, they would say, there is no other side. This is harassment. This is abuse. Don't give them a platform. And you could see the effects of covering GamerGate. I'm 19 years old. This is what happens when you cover GamerGate for a week.
Right. So now you've written that there are plenty of rational, non-anonymous people who support GamerGate online. It's not just all people spewing hate. There are people, they want to distance themselves from these people making online threats. But the term itself has become synonymous, you say, with in the mainstream for harassing, misogynistic behavior. Any idea why gamers still want to associate themselves with this movement if they also say that they want to end these threats to women online?
That's a good question. And if you look at the actual panel, the Safe Point panel, there was actually 2 women on that panel. It's not all angry men. And one of the women on the panel is actually the president-elect of the Society of Professional Journalists, and a TV reporter who I think has kind of gotten caught up in all of this, but was there to talk really about ethics in journalism, which has become kind of a meme, but she really was there to talk about journalism. So yeah, I think there's been some movements from people, the more rational people in GamerGate, to like maybe distance themselves from the abuse, to maybe start another movement under a different name, but the name doesn't have the recognition that GamerGate does, so whenever that movement starts, it doesn't really pick up traction the way GamerGate has.
So what you're saying is these people that are for free speech and ethical press and representing gamers, that they are sticking with the GamerGate tag because that's how they get their message out at all?
Yeah, I think it gains them. I mean, if I'm sure you've experienced this. If you tweet anything with a GamerGate hashtag, you're going to get a response, mostly negative. What I found this week, which, like I said, I'd largely been avoiding this for a long time because I just didn't want to engage with that community. This week I have been tweeting back to people. I have been responding, and I found, and this might be because I'm not a woman and I'm not subject to the same kind of abuse, unfortunately. But I found that just engaging with them directly, asking questions, using some humor, they've actually responded back and started to pass my articles around and say, hey, this is actually a fair article for once. I think they feel very persecuted. I think they feel like they don't get a fair shake. I think they feel they're all lumped together and treated as trolls when some of them might actually have some things worth saying.
Right. Well, like I said earlier, I traded emails with Perry Jones, who says that he was doing the Open Gaming Society panel. He was going to moderate the panel. He said they've agreed to discuss harassment in the day-long seminar. Like they've decided they were going to talk about something else, but now they said, okay, let's discuss harassment. They say they're committed to getting the gamers a voice at this conference, and nothing will ever keep them from standing up for gamers and ensuring that they're properly represented. So I still am confused. I guess it makes sense now that they want to associate with themselves to get attention, to get their movement out. But it's still hard for me not to be afraid that this is just a way of hiding behind harassment.
Yeah, absolutely. The GamerGate name has become synonymous with harassment and online abuse. There's no getting around that, and no matter how they sugarcoat it or try to present a more rational front, you say GamerGate online, you're going to get some blowback your way. You're going to get some angry tweets. You're going to get people harassing you. The more rational people that I've talked to in that movement will say, well, those are the extremists. Those are the trolls. That's not us. That's not. And it's decentralized. There's no actual leadership. So it's like saying everyone on 4chan is a troll or everyone who's in Anonymous is a troll. There's some truth to that, but it may not encompass every single person in that movement.
So about the festival, you've been covering South by Southwest for a long time. You've worked with them. What about the complaints that some of the people in the anti-GamerGate panel complained that they wrote to the festival and said, we're being threatened. You need to provide protection for us, and that they were responded to in not a good way. They were just sort of ignored. What do you say about that? Is that accurate?
The festival is keeping mum. They haven't given any statements beyond the stuff on their website. They haven't given interviews. I've tried all week to get them to say anything, and nothing on the record, and nothing that we could use has been said. So we've been trying to ask them directly about how this happened, and they haven't really addressed that. Based on the evidence we've seen online of people posting actual emails that they received, it definitely sounds like stuff broke down along the way, all the way going back to August when the panel picker was still going, and when these panels were being kind of sussed out. It sounds like there was a systematic, oh, don't worry about it, this is going to take care of itself. And then when it looked like the GamerGate panel was going to be brought in, oh, don't worry, that panel's probably not going to get in anyway, and then it did. So it seems like a systematic kind of failure at the panel picker level to give good information, to keep in constant communication. And a lot of these emails were from staffers that I don't know who they are. They weren't Hugh Forrest, who's the director of the festival. They were from people, below that. So it's hard to say kind of exactly what went wrong. I will say one thing that I think the festival has been unfairly portrayed as being is kind of not understanding diversity. I think that's been, from dealing with them the last couple of years, they really have been making a big push on diversity, on getting more women on panels, on getting more women as keynote speakers. Last year, they had the first transgendered speaker as a keynote. They really have been making these efforts for many years. And to say that they're just now jumping on a diversity bandwagon or something, that's definitely not true.
So now they're going to devote a whole day to a seminar on online harassment, and the Online Gaming Society, the people that were on the supposedly GamerGate panel, they've said, yes, we'll be there. What about the other side? Where are they? They haven't said they'll appear yet, correct? Yeah,
there was a report in Recode today who actually broke the report earlier this week that there would be the summit, that the participants of the Level Up panel were not aware that the other panel was being brought back and are not happy about it and have not been communicated with, which seems to be exactly how they got in this mess in the first place, South by Southwest. So that's not good. So these statements that they released to Recode suggest that they are either going to pull out or they're not happy about it. And if that panel doesn't happen, then you may lose BuzzFeed and you may lose Vox Media, who have threatened to pull out if these panels are not reinstated and if harassment is not addressed. The whole summit could collapse if they lose that panel.
Well, it's interesting. I mean, I really do hope that they are able to meet in a room. I mean, just from the emails I traded with Perry Jones, I mean, it really sounds like, he wants to I said, have you talked to Brianna Wu, who's at the center of this controversy? He said, there's no way for me to talk to her. She systematically blocks everyone on Twitter. And, as well, I would too if I was getting that much hate spewed at me. So it's just, it's really, there's really no good answer, but it would be wonderful. And maybe I'm a Pollyanna, but to have everyone in a room looking at each other and talking about, and discussing this, that would be great. Do you think there's any chance that's going to happen?
Well, I mean, the best thing I saw on Twitter this week was all these people kind of coming at me because I was writing about GamerGate and, on both sides coming at me, and then seeing a person kind of on the GamerGate side and a person who describes herself as a social justice warrior kind of engaging with each other, and then in the end saying, you know what, we both really like video games, we both want fairness in journalism, let's just leave it at that. And I was like, oh my God, I can't believe that happened. I can't believe that they had a nice dialogue on Twitter. That's amazing. On the other hand, I mean, if you talk to the people on the Level Up panel, they would probably tell you, I don't want to have to face these people. I don't want to have to face the GamerGate community. I shouldn't have to. I want to go to South by Southwest and do a presentation about harassment and not have to face harassers. Not to say that the people on the SavePoint panel have engaged in these actions themselves, but the Level Up panelists definitely feel like, why should I have to share that stage with people that I don't want to share a stage with? Why am I being forced into that position? Which, very good point.
Well, Omar, thank you so much for covering this and for coming on and talking to me, especially since I am wearing a crazy costume, like talking about this very serious topic.
Yeah, it has been a bit of an exhausting week, but, we'll probably know by early next week whether, that panel is going to happen or not. And then we've got another, 4 months of stuff that could happen between now and March.
Right, exactly. Well, Omar Gallaga is the technology and culture reporter for the Austin American Statesman. He is at Omarg with a G on Twitter. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me. It's great. Thank you.
Take care. And finally tonight, Tesla's new Autopilot feature has saved a life. An Uber driver in Seattle says he was driving his Tesla Model S in autonomous mode when another car pulled out right in front of him, and then the car braked itself. The driver claims to have done nothing. The car used its sensors and cameras to determine that it needed to brake. Thanks to Cold Spring for posting this story on the Tech News Today subreddit. To keep posting and upvoting stories on that subreddit, so I know what you'd like to hear. I check it every day. It's reddit.com/r/technewstoday. And that's it for this edition of Tech News Tonight. Thanks to Dana Schwartz for making my Halloween dreams come true. Last week I said someone should be an Apple Watch band for Halloween, and Dana made it happen, in Photoshop at least. Get it? Apple Watch band. You can subscribe to this show at twit.tv/TN2. You can write to us at TN2@twit.tv. You can watch live every weekday at 4 p.m. Pacific. And don't miss our morning news program, Tech News Today, every weekday at 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern. I'm Megan Morrone. Thanks for watching and have a happy Halloween.
Bandwidth for Tech News Tonight is brought to you by CashFly.com.